Having a physical or developmental disability can affect every part of a person's life. Often, they count on the constant assistance of a relative to get through daily tasks most of us take for granted. But what happens if that caregiver dies? The financial implications can be devastating.
When a caregiver of a child with special needs passes away, the biggest fear for that family member is where they're going to live, what's going to happen to them, where's the money going to come from to support where they're going to live, and who's going to look out for them. There's an issue of, are they able to take care of their own day-to-day activities, their own money situations, their bills being paid for, shopping independently, and who's going to manage the process of all of that being done, not only looking out for their best being, but the money that's involved in handling it as well.
Barbara Kent's son Bradley has autism. She says she constantly worried about what would become of him after she was no longer able to care for him.
Bradley is quite an adventure. He's extremely talented and social. He loves to play the piano. He plays piano at nursing homes. He's energetic and exciting, and he has lots of needs, just like everyone else. Bradley was diagnosed with autism when he was young, and he requires a great deal of care, probably 24/7 care when I'm not around. It's extremely stressful to think about what would happen to Bradley when I'm no longer able to care for him. He requires so much attention, and he'd love to be a movie star. So he requires a great deal of care, however, for not only his physical needs, but his behavioral needs as well.
According to leading financial planners, only 10% of parents who have children with special needs have planned sufficiently for their child later in life. The other 90% are fumbling along the way, making mistakes that will ensure their children lose out in the long run. The biggest misstep? Surprisingly, it's making their special needs child the beneficiary of insurance policies and inheritances.
When a child with a disability is named as a beneficiary on somebody's life insurance or 401k or other assets, it puts them at jeopardy for losing any government benefits they are currently receiving or they could be receiving, such as Medicaid services, home-based services. If they have assets more than $2,000, they will immediately lose funding for those types of services and possibly lose the Social Security income that they're receiving.
What I recognized along the way about trying to do this alone was that I knew nothing about the laws. I was stunned when I heard all the laws that incorporate what you have to do for your child, and how even just going to your general lawyer who may not know all of the laws is not such a great idea.
Financial planners like Annette Hammortree recommend setting up a special needs trust to supplement government benefits, identifying a long-term care provider, and completing a letter of intent. And then start thinking about other crucial financial goals like retirement for themselves and if they will need to subsidize their child's needs into their retirement. But her most important advice, don't go it alone.
It's very difficult for a family member to think that they can do the planning for a special needs child or family member by themselves. For one, it's too emotional. You need to be able to think about, what are the services out there? What don't I know about? Typically, a financial planner who has specific background in working with special needs families can help quarterback the process, making sure that you keep moving. Because the obstacles don't stop. Someone needs to stay in the background for you to keep you moving forward and remind you why the process is so important.
For Barbara, having a professional help her make sound decisions gives her peace of mind about the future and allows her and Bradley to focus on the present.
Having the plan in place is a huge relief. You kind of feel like you always knew you had to do it, and finally now that it's done, you just can kind of lay back and think, okay, when and if something happens to me, everything's in place and life will go on for my child.
Hammortree Financial Services helps ensure your loved ones receive the best care possible. For 15 years, Annette Hammortree has helped the families of those with special needs plan for the future, assuring they have a place to live, someone to care for them, and the financial means to live comfortably.
The work that I've been doing in special needs planning for the last 15 years has been very rewarding for me. I understand that if their assets are not structured properly, these people could be on the streets. They'd have nowhere to go, they'd have no medical background, they'd have nobody to look out for them. It's much better than not doing anything. Means they could end up in an institution, they could end up homeless, they could end up without benefits. Instead, put some plans in place.
Annette Hammortree knows firsthand the joys and trials of having a child with special needs. Her son Shane was born 16 weeks premature, is visually impaired, has a seizure disorder, and is developmentally delayed. Realizing that Shane would most likely outlive her and her husband, Annette wanted to guarantee Shane continued to receive the loving care he'd had all his life. Already an accomplished financial planner, Annette immersed herself in researching the laws and financial needs of people with disabilities.
When my son Shane was born, I had had my practice for many years doing planning with families. When he was born, it was probably after he was 3, I was invited to hear an attorney talk about special needs planning, and basically it was trust planning. And I heard him speak, and it was a revelation. And I realized how great the need was to share and marriage my personal experiences with my practice, and how I could help families coordinate and facilitate how to get from point A to point B, not just legally, but financially, and bring it all together.
Today, Annette shares that knowledge with other families in her same situation. Her financial expertise and compassionate understanding help guide them in making difficult yet necessary decisions.
John has autism, but he has high-functioning autism. With autism, you have deficits in social and communication areas, and so that's where he really struggles. On a day-to-day basis, he doesn't have an understanding of the social world, so he can't really go out by himself or go anywhere by himself. His future is something we worry about significantly. John really can't live independently fully without somebody there to help take care of him. For John, turning 18 was a big issue in our lives because we had to go through the legal aspects of guardianship for him, and then also a lot of making sure that all of the estate planning, financial planning, and fiscal planning was all in order. Finding someone to help you be guided along that path is something that's very important. Luckily, I've known Annette for a very long time. In fact, our sons were in the hospital together. And so I've known her, and I've found her to be a great resource. She's very knowledgeable, she's very professional, and she's someone you can trust.
Annette helped me all along the way because she has her own special needs child, and she understood and could relate to everything that I was going through and everything that I would need to make a full plan in the event that I was no longer here. So I felt completely supported, and I didn't have to go through this alone, and that's really very helpful.
If you support someone with special needs, don't just hope they'll be taken care of when you're gone. Plan for their future and contact Hammortree Financial Services, creating peace of mind. For more information about life planning services, visit AnnetteHammortree.com.